What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy G Waters, and we're back with another episode of Solar Streets. Today, my guest will be author Mr. Mark Green. Welcome to the Solar Streets, my brother.
Thank you, G. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Congratulations on your book. The show must go on.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about today. You've had a colorful journey on in this music industry, working with some legends, and just making history all over the place.
Oh yeah, man. I've been blessed. I like to say, Gus.
Yes.
Yes.
Man. So, how did you get your start?
Whew. You want the short version or long version?
Oh, the short version.
Yeah. So anyway, I kind of knew what I wanted to do when I was about in 8th grade. And I met a friend of mine. We decided to create a band. And when I went to his house, I saw these gold and platinum records on his wall. And I was like, wow, where'd you get those? He said, well, my uncle was a producer. And he wrote these songs for the Jackson 5. I Want You Back, Stop the Love You Save, and ABC.
Oh, my God.
And then when I saw those albums, I said, that's what I want to do. So from that point on, we formed our band. But by 1976, the bands kind of disbanded, and that's when the disco era came in.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening on the other side was hip hop. Now, by 1977, I was DJing local parties around the neighborhood, and I was approached by a promoter who asked me to be in the Battle of the DJs in the Bronx. And that particular night, when I got there, after doing my first set, the other crew started, and that was the first time I ever experienced rapping. And what is this? I was so excited, man. I went home with my first rap that night, and that weekend I became ghetto famous in the neighborhood.
You remember the rap?
Yeah, but I ain't gonna say it. It was corny, back then.
Oh man, you had bars, man. Can't be corny if it got you here today.
Yeah, but you know what it was back then? It was all about fun. It was like playing the dozens. We dropped a line here and there. And it wasn't like it is now. Nobody thought about making money. Nobody thought about this thing would blow up to where it is now,
Mm-hmm.
When I look back over the years, I think about when I was DJing in the neighborhood. A friend of mine I went to high school with named Guy O'Brien. He was following me around. He said, yo, man, what is that you doing? I said, they call it rap in the city. And the funny thing was that year, 78, I went to college. And Guy called me up later that year and told me he was making a record. I said, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, we're making a record off of Good Times. The record they made was called Rapper's Delight.
Oh, man.
And history begins.
Woo! That is incredible for your legacy to start. But it didn't start with that song, but to be a part of that.
Yeah.
In that moment of time. I remember getting that record, and it was just like, it just changed the landscape of what we was listening to as kids. And and then for you to be a part of it, or to know the people that was created, that's gotta been. What did that look like on your end? Because on my end, we thank you because thank you all because it gave us something to do, gave us something to dance to.
Yeah.
To look forward to, and these jams and everything was just crazy.
Well, Gus, I talk about in my book, again, like nobody knew what this new art form was, and I was happy to be in the forefront of being a part of it. It was just something that we did. And I think by 1978, I was on TV on this show called Soul Alive. I was the guest DJ where I was rapping.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I got to college, it was 78, 79, it spread like wildfire. Everybody in the neighborhood was rapping or DJing.
Yeah, I remember those days. So did you come to the Bronx for the jams as well, or your thing? Did you go that route at all?
No, because I'm from Jersey, so Bronx is only 8 miles from where I live or where I grew up. But after kind of, we always hung out in the Bronx and Harlem because those were the two closest boroughs to our neighborhood.
Okay.
So we were always influenced by those. And then coming up in that era, a lot of parents moved over to Jersey. And so a lot of kids that grew up in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Harlem, they kind of grew up in New Jersey as well,
Okay. Nice. So then after the Rapper's Delight, what happened from there?
Well, from there, I was still DJing in college. I was at 3 clubs DJing. I was the first person to have Rappers Delight, so I was like the man in the town. This was in Virginia. And then during the Thanksgiving weekend, I went home. When I came back, I had been robbed. They took all my albums, they took all my DJ equipment, and that ended my DJ career. So I decided to find something else to do, and I started promoting concerts, met a guy, and later on, I got a chance to work with Melba Moore and Phyllis Hyman, and I told them about my passion, wanted to be in this business, and they was like, "Listen, Mark, take my phone number, and when you get out of college, call me." So I waited probably about a year after I got out of college, and then I called Melba Moore, and
Mm.
my first job. And my first job after working with Lilo Thomas, I became the road manager of the Boogie Boys.
Oh man,
Yeah, and that was 1985. We did our first tour of the Fresh Fest, and we also was on the tour with the Fat Boys.
man, that was how would you compare? Well, you can't even compare, but that's the only word I can use. That time, like to now, like what would you say the difference between then and now?
Oh, Gus, it's just a huge difference. First of all, back in the day, we got paid after the show, including R&B and hip hop people always got paid after the show. You never got paid before the show like you do now.
Mm.
Hip hop changed that the way we do business. But back then, there was no cell phones, no beepers. Only thing you had was a 10 cent phone book.
Phone, payphone.
So most of the promoters back then, we talk in the early 80s, I call it the Scarface era because that was the era of cocaine and drugs. And most of the guys were hustlers, con artists, pimps, and pushers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do when they come to the gig, they would play the opening act and the headliner, and then they would disappear. So everybody else, if you weren't one of those, you got caught holding an empty bag. You'd be looking around, where's the promoter? Anybody seen the promoter, you know? And after seeing that happen once or twice, I demanded that I wanted to be the opening act on all shows because I knew my money was guaranteed in.
Right, okay, okay.
The other thing about the early days of hip hop was that, the travel was different, and also we did mostly roller skating rings and little clubs, not like you do in arenas and theaters now. We were just doing in and outs of those type of things.
What were some of the clubs y'all did back in the day? Was a rooftop in there?
Nah, this was before rooftop.
Before, oh my god. So what clubs was out back then? Let's see if I can remember.
I can't remember. That's 1985, but it was 1986. I remember I became an agent and I signed Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff. And my first show I gave them was at the Latin Quarters. And that's
Okay,
the
okay.
contract. It's in the book. If you get the book, you'll see the contract and everything.
Man.
Still remember the Latin Quarters at that time.
So when you signed Will Smith, did you have any idea that he had the potential to be who he is today?
Not at all. I just knew Will was fun. His music was fun and exciting. He was like an entertainer. And that's kind of why I signed him. Now that I think about it, yes, the rooftop was open back in those days.
It was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was.
I remember the
Yeah,
rooftop.
yeah. I do too now that I remember. And then there was a couple other clubs, the tunnel and all that stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
But
And the skate ring was the skate key, was that around then?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was around.
Okay, I see. I see.
I was around. I was in these streets.
Yeah, man.
Nah, but those were good old times. Good old times. And I mean, so you signed Will Smith, and who else did you have the opportunity to sign?
You know what it was? I became friends with this guy named Herbie Lovebug. So Herbie
Oh
was
my
like the
God!
Puffy of the day, and he gave me Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play.
He gave it to everybody.
Yeah, he gave me all the big names because he was the producer, and him and I had bonded. And I was only one of the few hip hop agents around because you have to realize when I was on the road, that's all I dealt with was booking agents, and I was like, I wanted to step my game up. At that time I wanted to wear a suit,
Right.
have a big office in New York City.
Yeah.
And I saw an opportunity for me to be this great booking agent for hip hop because hip hop was still new. Record companies didn't know what to do with it. Boogie Boys was signed to Capitol. We were probably one of the third groups signed to a major label.
Hmm.
They didn't know how to market it or anything. So, but the good thing was that because I had the relationships of being on the road with the rapping Duke and
The
LL,
hard, the hard.
yeah, and
Come
Ron
on.
and Houdini and Gordy's Groove, all these guys that we came up together, everybody knew me. So when I transitioned into becoming an agent, everybody came to me to get booked.
Okay.
The
So,
another person who gave me a lot of talent was Tyrone Williams, Fly Ty from he gave me actually Biz Markie,
oh
Roxanne
man.
Shante, and MC Shan. So I signed those too.
Let me ask you this: with the labels not knowing how to market the talent, but you still was seeing so much success. Like, how did that success happen with them not knowing what to do with it? Was it?
Because everything was hood and underground. Like we knew how to market it. So we came in telling them what to do. The problem is they didn't know how to sell it either. They didn't know what this new art form was, what it meant, and how much they could make off of it. So it was
Mm.
us who were really out there pushing it and selling it. I remember by 19, I think 89, I got a job to work at Capital EMI and had a white guy that was heading up the rap department. And I'm talking to him, and he had no clue about hip hop. And I'm like, how's he got the job? So of course I hurry up and moved him out of position because I knew too
Thank you.
much, and I didn't feel like he had the ability to do what needed to be done. I think our first record we saw signed was was Jay-Z and Jazzo, Hawaiian Sophie.
Oh man,
Yeah.
man. Man. You have a lot of. I mean, everybody you mentioned is legendary in their own right. So it's like it was only right that you write this book.
Man, I
The
sit back.
book probably wrote itself.
Yeah, I mean, in the book I talk about these meetings, and like I remember when I started working with Jay-Z and Jazz, and Jazz was a headache to the record labels. They didn't want to keep him,
Mm.
and nobody wanted to deal with them because a lot at the beginning, you got to realize nobody really wanted to deal with hip hop. They thought it was like some ghetto stuff, so they didn't want to deal with it. But I remember sitting down with Jay-Z, and because Jay-Z was very quiet, man, he wouldn't throw rice at a wedding, as I say. And but when we talked, and he told me he rapped and he started spitting those words to the originator, I was blown away. I was like, dude, you got talent. But he was quiet. He was the DJ for Jazzo, and
Oh, he was a DJ.
he was the DJ for Jazzo, yeah, for Hawaii
Wow,
Sophie. So that was the first time I heard him rap, and then they ended up putting that song on the record.
wow. And then the rest is now he's the greatest of all
Yeah,
time to many. To
yeah.
oh my god, that's crazy. That's crazy. So, I mean, Salt and Pepper, Jazzy Jeff, Jay Z, Boogie Boys, um, Rappers Delight. I mean, you have the whole industry in the palm in your book.
Yeah, my book I talk about, I got pictures, I
This
got
Mark. Oh my.
contracts, Mark Money Green. And let me tell you, I got my name from the Boogie Boys only because I demanded that nobody go on stage till I got the money. One day they went on stage, and without me confirming that I had the money, and I screamed and yelled at them. And out of nowhere, Romeo JD said, "Okay, Mark Money Green." From that point on, my name stuck.
It's a good name. It's a good
Yeah.
name. That's a good name. How long did it take you to write the book?
I mean, I did it with a friend of mine. This young lady that lived in the neighborhood. She used to write a lot of the ghetto novels that I used to like to read. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was trying to find somebody to help me write this book, because I had no idea how to format it, although I did publish the book for Grandmaster Flash. I managed him for 20 years on and off.
You see what I'm saying? These names is just easing on out so effortlessly.
And I got plenty of stories that's in the book about that. But
This is a must. This is a must read.
yeah, you got to get it, man. I talk about Guru, who I managed up until his death, and was on the
Oh,
road
oh
with
man,
Aaliyah, Montel Jordan, Usher, Timberland, Missy Elliott, Drew Hill, um, Teena Marie, Aretha Franklin. I can go on and on and on, but they're all in the book. But going back to what I was saying, I didn't know anything about doing, so I called Erica and I said, Eric, I wanted to do this book. So she came in. We would meet every day, every week for 2 hours. I would tell her the story. She would type it up. She'd read it back to me, and I said, "Yep." And the good thing about Erica, she spoke my language. You know, we came from the same hood, so it wasn't like I had to tell her to change a lot of words. You know,
Right. Okay.
what the good thing was is that I said to her, "This is that," and every now and then she had a little female thing. I said, "Nah, that ain't how I would say it, or that's not, you know." So I had to change those, but for the most part, it was a marriage made in heaven.
Nice, nice, nice. So, since the book's been out, what's been the feedback from everyone that's checked it out?
Man, I'm so surprised about the feedback I'm getting. I mean, people have just told me how much they enjoy it. People say they can't put it down. The chapters are short. I had so many requests for audio. I just hired Jay Quan. He's a hip hop historian. He's on Rock the Bells. He's actually finalizing the audio for me. Um, I mean, I was kind of thrown back because this is not only the story of hip hop, but it's my personal journey through
Right.
the music industry. I talk about everything from the time I sat down and meet with an OG, an office old Jewish guy, and he brought me in. He says, "Let me tell you something. You're a good looking kid, but I ain't bringing you in here to be a house nigga." And
Mm.
I was like, "Whoa!"
Oh,
That was
whoa.
my first venture into the record business. I mean, it's crazy the stories because people don't understand back in the early 80s and 90s again, damn near everybody was on drugs or some kind of drug because it was just popular.
Right.
Cocaine, like it was like they offered it to you like a drink back then.
Mm. I remember those drinks being passed around. I wasn't partaking, but I remember they was being passed around.
Listen,
Man.
there's so many crazy stories in there too because I talk about dealing with artists that had habits and dealing with band members that had habits and how did I handle it. The whole thing about this book is when I tell my stories, I want people to understand the journey of the trials and tribulations I went through. I also want them to understand what it was like back then and how when I look back at the time frame when I wrote this book, I was 24, 25 when I was on the road handling $100,000 deals. And although it may seem okay, now back then it was just kind of unheard of somebody, that young dealing with, 30 to 20 different people. And when I decided I became a tour manager, I'm handling two or three different acts
Mm.
time. And then you got to deal with all the personalities, the wants and desires of everybody. I need tickets, I need this, I want that. Hotel ain't right, the bus driver's late. So you have a plenty of those stories of how things happened back in the day.
Right, right, right. So outside of the difference in how artists got paid back then and compared to how they get paid today, what else did you how else do you see hip hop? Like where do you see hip hop today? How you feel about hip hop today and where it stands and how it's represented? And I mean, because you didn't work with everybody from the beginning of commercial hip hop to
To
the
now.
end of commercial, the end of the new beginning of commercial. Because Jay Z is still forever gonna be
Yeah.
dropping jewels and gems, so he's never going nowhere. So like your name and everything that you put so much into the game. Like how do you see it today?
I mean, Gus, I'm biased because I'm old school. I came up where we had to work for what we got. You
Mm,
had A&Rs, you had artist development. You had to become an artist. If you couldn't be one, we created that image for you. We taught you how to dance. We taught you how to dress. Now I call it the microwave artist because everything just pops up. Like when we came up, we needed to know who the top musicians were, who were the top producers. How do you make a beat? Here you go online now. You can buy a beat online. You can buy some lyrics online. You don't have to do anything that we did. We were more creative. And although some of them get through and they become these big artists, but in the beginning, the creativity is not there. I remember going to the record label back around 2005 or 2010. I had an artist who I thought was really, really good. And I went to the label and they was like, "Well, Mark, how many followers does she have?" I'm like, "Followers?
mm,
What are you talking about?" I said, "This is an artist. She's creative. Look at her. She's a real artist." They was like, "Well, that's fine, but like, how many artists followers does she have?" And I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do because of social media. But back then,
Right.
it's like followers. What are you talking about, followers?
In that time, did you get discouraged from your
Definitely.
positioning?
Yes, I did because again, I came up where we produced beats. We had to go out. We studied musicians. We studied, the music from the past. I mean, I went to college, a couple colleges to do some speaking, and I'm talking to these kids, and we talk about hip hop, and I bring up the Sugarhill Gang, and most of the people didn't know who they were.
Mm.
I know the kid's only like 20, 20 years old now, but still, if you call yourself a hip hop head, you got to know the history.
Yeah. True. 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 True.
So
So
it's disappointing to me. Yes.
do you see any resurgence of any of the things that was necessary to make it back then? Do you see that coming back into today's landscape of hip hop?
A little bit, but it's really hard, man, because of technology has changed the way we do everything right now. You don't need to go back. You don't need to go look for records in a crate.
Mm.
Figure out. You just go to the computer, put in something, and boom, there it is. Back then you mixing a beat, and you got to find that next record to go with that beat.
Right. Right.
One other thing that people don't realize, when I came up, we had mixers, but our mixers, you can only hear one side of the song. And the other side, you had to kind of beat your foot to and then finally feel that you got that beat, and then you just mix it that way. It wasn't
Okay.
a crossfader where you could hear two songs playing at one time.
Right. 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 Man. I mean, this is like, man. I tell you, this show is educated me, has reintroduced me to history that I knew and stuff that I'm relearning. And I mean, it's exciting to hear about the history of all this. So, are you still active doing it, or you just have you?
Oh yeah, yeah. See, I have the talent agency, Celebrity Talent Agents. I had for 26 years. I book mostly hip hop and R&B. I'm
Okay.
also the chairman of the Hip Hop Artist Relationships for the Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx, where I deal with all the hip hop artists. And I'm just out here hustling and grinding, man, trying to get to the next artist. The issue is, again, like these artists, and I take my hat off to them. A lot of them come out with one or two songs, and they're getting $100,000 a show.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
to see everybody blinging because in the weekend, a lot of these guys become millionaires. I was watching this video on 2 Chainz and all the cars he had and everything, and I'm like, a lot of people forgot who he was. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
But the thing is, when I'm looking at some of these deals and these artists are getting $200 or $300 in a show, you do 3 shows in one weekend. You're a millionaire. Imagine you got a whole year.
Yeah. 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 The money. Yeah. I mean, it's all your fault. You have to get.
I mean, the average old school guys are getting like 25,000, but the new guys are coming out the box. They're getting 50 to 75,000 off the box, out the
I
box.
mean, the time and the work that you put in helped these guys. You gave us something. Well, I'm not there. I'm not there at all. So you know what I mean. But those artists who are getting that kind of bread, I mean, you help pave the way to
Yeah,
make that happen. So that has to feel really good.
it does. And what I'm hoping that the younger artists will see that and give back to give back to the hip hop.
What does that look like when you say get back? What does that look like? What does that actually look like so they can have an idea what
I want
that?
them to preserve their legacy. Give back, give your artifacts, give some money. You're making $1 million in one weekend. It don't cost you nothing to drop 25,000 to the museum. Don't cost you nothing to donate some of your clothes so that people from this point on for the rest of their life will see your legacy there and see who you were.
Right.
Pop has grown. When I was managing Flash, man, I went to 17 countries. Flash has probably been to probably like 60 countries or more. I mean,
Mm.
the guy was so big overseas, I had never seen anything like it. It was like he was like Michael Jackson over there. Here we are headlining festivals as a DJ, and you got all these major artists, but people love hip hop all over the world. You go to France, Germany, Ireland, you would think you were in New York.
Yeesh. The Hip Hop Museum has it been getting a lot of support from the legends that's from that
We do,
time?
we've gotten a lot of support from like those who are helping establish it, the LLs, Nas. We got Roxanne, Shantae supporting it, Yo-Yo. And you
Okay.
don't even have to support it financially. Give your time, give, do something to give back some content so that we can share with other people. And that's what I want. I want people to understand that, this is your legacy, bro. You just don't walk away and say you was a hip hop artist and don't leave nothing behind.
Is it just for artists or is it for people behind the scenes as well?
Everybody can donate. You could donate $5, $10, $50, Every
Hmm.
year I try to donate a little something.
Right, right, right. No,
You
definitely. We
gotta
all owe hip
realize this
hop.
too. Guys, it's a tax write-off. You giving that money to the government anyway, so give it back to
Right,
something that you can write off.
right. And it saved a lot of lives. Like it's opened a
Yes.
lot of doors and saved a lot of lives and continues to save lives. A lot. Hip hop has gotten a bad rap for a lot of things, but it's time to big up some of the great things that's come out of the genre because it's a lot of greatness that's come out of the genre.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
would a lot of us be without it?
Exactly, man. I'm telling you, when I look over the years, hip hop changed the way that we do business in the world. They've changed the way we do marketing. They've changed the way we do sales. They changed the way we dress. I mean, we have basically took over how this whole world operates. And
True.
and when you listen to commercials, you look at movies, everything has some kind of hip hop influence with it.
Mm. So let me ask you this: with you having so much history in the game, like who are your top five favorite hip hop artists?
Oh wow. So I would say Biggie, LL, Rakim. Um, those are my top three.
Okay.
And I'm trying, then I can move into some more, but I got to think about them.
What about all right? So what about your top three female rappers?
I like my top three male. I like Salt and Pepper. I like
Do
MC.
they count as one or two?
Uh, MC Light, Latifah. You know, they were kind of on my forefront during the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. So the new artists that are coming up, not the ones that are out, but the ones that's coming up. What advice would you give them if to continue the journey or to make a mark in the game? Oh,
Again,
that's the name, Mark. To
yeah,
make a
yeah,
mark,
yeah.
to make Mark and money
Right.
green
There
in the
you go.
game.
Another thing I would say is try to give your business back to black businesses. If you go now and you try to book a hip hop artist, most of them all have white agents. Why not come back
Mm,
to people like me and other people that have been in the game for years? There's a lot of black agents that's out here been in the game for years, but you guys overlook us. Come back, bring your business back home.
and at what level does an artist need an agent? Like, would you say?
I mean, as to the point where people know who you are. I get those
Okay.
calls all the time. I'm on Apple Music and this and that. I mean, radio has always been the defining point of when you have made it. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you do have artists that have made it by doing social media and doing this and that, but it becomes a point where you're in demand. Are people calling me and requesting you? That's how I determine, how I'm going to work with somebody.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Do you have any outside of the book? Do you have anything coming up, or the book is the main focus right now?
Well, the book has been my main focus. I also run a performing arts theater in the Bronx, so I'm constantly busy. The summer is where we have most of the festivals, so not just booking hip hop, I'm booking the R&B stuff, and a lot of the old school stuff. For me, I just try to stay busy. I like going to these shows, meeting some of the new artists, and hopefully get a chance to work with them. They got the Cardi B's, you got all these people that Ice Spice and all these people that making real money. But again, like give back, you
Right.
just give back some kind of way.
Yeah. I guess we gotta keep spreading the word that this is even a thing. Cause they like, do they even know?
I don't think it is because you still got young managers that's coming out that's running things. And again, a lot of people they don't understand and they don't have interest in the history of where everything started. Just like they treat all the I call them legends, they call them old school artists, old
Mm,
school hip hop. They're legends. These are people that paved the way for where you are now. you should be bowing down to them, giving thanks to them, seeing how you can collaborate with them, do something with them, you know?
Right, 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 right. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. But it seems like sometimes it's hard to really connect with some of them don't really appreciate some of the talent that's out. How do you what do you say to that? If you reach out to them and they don't really want to be bothered, you
You
go to the
know,
next one, huh?
just try your best. You know, you can't, we're still saying can take a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it.
Right.
It's like you just try to educate them and let them know. Look at me. You know, I never told my story. The only reason I started telling my story because one day Jaquan, the historian, was interviewing Master G, and he kept asking Master G, "Well, how did you first hear about rap?" And Master G used to say, "Well, it was an upperclassman." And finally, Jaquan was like, "Look, I need to know who the upperclassman was." And when he finally said my name, it opened the door for me to really tell my story because I stopped telling people that I was a rapper and that I introduced it to Master G because nobody believed me, nobody cared. But now that the story's out, it gives me an opportunity to tell people my life story, which is a part of hip hop. You know, I'm telling not only that story, but all the things I dealt with working with R&B artists back in the day, being
Man.
on the road.
I saw in the bio you work with Dinah Ross. What did you do with Dinah Ross?
Well, I didn't do a lot with her. I done
Okay.
more with like Aretha Franklin. Teena Marie was signed to me. I had her signed to my record label.
Okay.
Um, there are plenty of stories in the book with her. I worked with Dennis Edwards from the Temptations. We talk about those
Is
stories.
this Tina Marie doing the when she was independent or when she was signed to the majors?
Well, she was independent. She didn't have a deal. She signed with me. I talk about in the book. I made the mistake. I had it all over the magazines that she was signing me. I think Cash Money saw it. They offered her more money. I released her from her her contract because I was friends with Tina and I was also a fan and I wanted to see her win.
I believe I bought that. I bought that album. I mean, what
That
year?
record
That was
went
like
number one.
95, 96, 97.
Yeah. That record went number one or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I bought that. I support it. I support
yeah.
it.
So I mean, in the book, I talk about those stories. I talk about the crazy stories of going through the South where we entered Charlotte, North Carolina, and we talk in 1985, and the bus is stopped because there's a Ku Klux Klan march in front of us.
Mm,
You know, or
damn.
going into these clubs and these promoters. I mean, I can't tell you how many guns I put to my head, thinking I would have died many times
Sheesh.
because you dealt with thugs and gangsters. I watch how hip hop changed from the managers went from family members to thugs to hustlers. It changed over the years.
Who did the better bit? Who did the best business? Was it the family, the thugs, or the hustlers?
Yeah, that's a real toss up. I mean, I look at some of my friends that was dealing with some of the gangsters. Some of the gangsters shut their business down.
They got
They were
indicted.
like the mob. They was coming in and started money from them and shit.
Should have stayed with the family, huh?
They should have stayed with their family. The problem with family was they didn't know what they were doing.
Just
So
send them to a couple of classes and figure
yeah,
it out.
he taught them along the way.
Man, so what would be one of your proudest if there's a moment, or a couple of moments, your proudest moments in the industry that you look back at and say, you know what, I'm so glad, thankful that I was a part of this right here.
Well, the first one was introducing rap to Master G.
Did you
Second,
realize that at that time that was a moment, or that was later on in life?
I really didn't even think about it until Jaquan started talking about it all the time in the interviews.
Okay, okay.
Master G started giving me my props, and I take my hat off to him because he could have said I heard it in New York, but he said I heard it from a high school friend. We grew up in Jersey, you know.
Got you. Did
I,
you have any history with Sequence?
yes, I was with Sequence when they first started. When they first came to Sugarhill in '79, I was there as an intern.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I was with Angie and gave her her last couple shows before she passed.
Oh
Told her
man.
that morning, I had just started booking her. I had 5 shows for it. I called up, I had another show, and she was like, okay, I'll be at this show in Georgia. and I'm going to Baltimore tomorrow, and then I'll take a look at what you sent me, but it never happened.
Man. Yeah, that I think that really rocked the industry this year. That was like wasn't expecting that at all.
My second moment was I wrote and produced a record on EMI Records, a rap record called Midnight Hour. That was 1989. So for me, that was big because I put it on my own label and was able
Mm-hmm.
to deal with a major.
And that was your record, or was it just a
Yeah, it was
record?
my record. I wrote and produced it, me and my friend Darryl Crush. Yep.
Night. That's out on all the platforms to be
Well,
listened.
the problem with that, 1989, EMI didn't know how to sell hip hop.
Okay.
They didn't know what to do with it. So it started well in New York, Houston, a lot of places, but again, they didn't know what to do. A lot of my friends was jealous that I had a record. I was working at the label. They wanted kickbacks, and if I didn't kick them back, they weren't working the record.
Oh
So the record died, but it was a great record.
man.
I talk about in the book. I had another deal with Joey Robinson at Bonamede Records. We had like 3 deals. We were actually coming up and coming as great producers at that time because our creativity and flow was really really hot. But a lot of things happened during that time, and I don't want to give it all away. You can read it in the book
Yeah, definitely.
to see the story. But yeah,
So what would you like for your legacy to be? What would you like to be remembered for as far as legacy is concerned?
I just wanted to be remembered that I was able to inspire, teach, and show people this business, that I was an early influencer in hip hop, that I did participate, that I did have something to leave behind.
Nice. Did you have anything to do with that song? The Martin Luther King song, the tribute that they did for him.
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did have the opportunity to publish Grandmaster Flash's book.
Okay. Nice. Listen, you are definitely a legend in this industry. It's a pleasure getting to know your story. I can't wait. I don't have the book, but I'm going to get this book as soon as we get off this
Appreciate you.
live, and I'm going to read it. And then this conversation.
Oh, the show must go on.
Yeah, and the show must go, and the show is going on, and you're gonna. I know I'm gonna come to the museum, and hopefully I get a chance to meet you in person, and we could just
Yes.
vibe. And it's an honor to meet you, and thank you for your contribution to my life through music, because it was definitely saved my life, and you're definitely one of the pioneers that I didn't know I had in my life.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you so
Man, it's a
much.
blessing. How can people find you on social media? Do
They can
you?
find Celebrity Talent Inc. on Instagram,
Uh huh.
Celebrity Talent Agency on Facebook. And if you want to get the book, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or you can go to my website, markmoneygreen.com.
Okay, and you said on Instagram is what is it again?
Celebrity Talent Agency Inc. INC.
Okay, got you. All right, thank you so much, Mark. This has been I mean, I didn't know. I knew it was gonna be good, but I didn't know how much history you was gonna give. I was like, man, this is a good one. I can't wait. I can't wait till this one drops. You just can't wait. Gonna
Yep.
keep it going. Is there any artists that you listening to now that you inspired by that you feel like it's needs more ears
Uh,
to know about?
yeah, I mean, I listen to basically what everybody else is listening to,
Okay.
I was just telling somebody, I do like Cardi B, I do like Ice Spice, I do listen to, Tyler and everybody else that's out here now. But and I thought about when you were asking me about my five, I forgot one of my favorite, Tupac. I forgot to mention.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tupac, definitely. Man, I tell you, this has been one for the hip hop books. I mean, you covered Rappers Delight. You covered. I remember the cover, the record covers, the album covers. When you open it up, I mean, I remember that album. That album was crazy. Man, you covered a lot of ground. Did you have anything? Did you work with Treacherous Three and all of them over there at Sugarhill?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but yes, I did. But it's in the book.
No, I'm getting the book. The book is gotten. Don't even worry about it. On my end, Solar Streets will be purchasing this book,
Yeah.
and I'm also gonna get one for my brother because he's also a hip hop historian. So this is something that he would like to read, and we need to read anyway. So
Yeah, we do. And I got a lot of people that, wrote about me in the book. There's Chubb Rock, Curtis Blow, Yo-Yo, Rome JD. You got Kumo D, Rob Bass. I mean, a lot of these guys have just, gave their thoughts of me as an agent and as a person in hip hop.
is there anything that's not in the book?
Well, there's a little bit of something for everybody.
No, that's what's up. All right, I will see you at the museum. Hopefully, get a
Yes.
chance to meet you in person and just connect and continue blessings on this journey and continue to inspire the people. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much
much.
for being on Solar Streets.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right,
Take care.
take it easy.